Welcome to another installment of the Amsoil Information Series. I'm Rob Stenberg. Welcome to Sturgis 2012, the granddaddy of all motorcycle rallies. There's a great deal to see and do here, so let's get rolling. Where are you here from?
Maine, British Columbia.
DeBerry, Florida.
Warrensburg, Missouri.
Decatur, Illinois.
And how'd you get here from Illinois?
I rode my Harley Davidson in.
I rode in on a 1973 Super Glide.
And how'd you get here, Rich?
My Harley, 2010 Street Glide.
It's beautiful riding. Draw through the hills and the forests and stuff. It's a great time.
I have a lot of friends here that I see like once a year because we all come to Sturgis.
The first place I wanted to come was to the Amsoil tent.
Everything I own has Amsoil in it.
This stuff works. You know, it's simple. This stuff works.
When you look back at the history of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, this thing is founded on two things, touring and racing. And what product could be a finer match for those people that put serious miles on a motorcycle or put them through serious stress than Amsoil?
Sturgis is all about heritage, motorcycling, and you know, we see a lot of vendors, they come and go, but Amsoil is the one that stick around because they're the ones at the front. They're the ones who are not afraid to bring their products to Sturgis and test them under the most rigorous conditions because they won't fail.
How important are sponsors to the Sturgis Rally every year?
Sponsors are very important. It's a pillar of income stream that helps with the community, helps us promote new things, helps us try new things that doesn't come out of the tax base. So it's very important to the community for sure.
Sponsors are the lifeblood of the rally in many respects. We have a community here that has a lot of expenses, a lot of overhead to produce this rally, and it is through our sponsorship relationships that afford us to host this thing.
If we did not have Amsoil here, there's no way that we could honestly provide the services that we have, from our police protection to our sanitation crews, everything else. All of that is also funded through the corporate sponsorship.
To have long-term sponsors like Amsoil is huge. I have a heartfelt appreciation towards that because we build relationships with those companies, and Amsoil has been awesome to work with.
Amsoil, thanks for sponsoring the Sturgis Rally.
Thanks for being here.
Amsoil, you rock.
Amsoil, thank you so much for being a sponsor of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and we look forward to seeing you next year.
Amsoil, it's great to have you as a sponsor of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Thank you.
We'll see you next year.
Thanks for watching another edition of the Amsoil Information Series. I'm Rob Stenberg. We'll see you next time. Hi, Rob Stenberg with another installment of the Amsoil Information Series. We're in sunny Daytona Beach, Florida for Daytona Bike Week 2012. You can hear the bikes rolling by, and we wanted to talk to some Amsoil users to find out exactly why they're using Amsoil and to find out what kind of benefits they're seeing by putting Amsoil products in their bike. Let's talk to a few of them. How long have you used Amsoil?
Oh, I used it back in the 70s, late 70s, in automobiles. I just started using it in a motorcycle here, I don't know, 5-6 years ago.
I've been using Amsoil for about 10 years now.
3 years now.
6 years.
As long as I can remember.
What made you decide to try Amsoil?
Friends of mine use it, and I figure I'll try it.
I can't say that it was personally recommended by anybody. Just I did some research and compared other oils.
So you basically did your homework before you switched to Amsoil?
That's correct. That's correct.
And through all the reading and research, you determined Amsoil's the best?
I did.
I've never heard anybody badmouth it. I've heard guys talk about putting Amsoil in motors and leaving it in and, oh yeah, I'll change it again someday. I don't know when someday is, but you can't beat the longevity of it. That's the best part.
Well, I worked in a motorcycle shop, and that's all we used was Amsoil products, and it was proven. That it was just through and through proven. We used it on a racetrack, daily riders, everything. And the gentleman I was getting it from was buying it wholesale, so I, got it through him, and that was it.
Your price is also very competitive, and I have to look at price because, I'm changing oil for 4 freaking bikes. I hope that didn't ruin the interview, but.
What kind of bike you ride?
I ride a Harley, have an ATV. I use it in both of my machines, plus my truck, plus my wife's car.
Well, I'm not riding a bike, but the car is a Saab 9.3, and it's a wonderful car to drive, and I like taking care of it, so I figured I'd use Amsoil in it every time I change the oil.
I use it on my bike, my 2 diesel trucks, my wife's FJ, and my Mini Cooper.
Porsche, Jaguar, Harley Davidson, and the Yamaha.
I use it in my automobiles, my pickup trucks on the farm, and my tractors, everything on the farm has Amsoil in it.
So what kind of performance have you seen in those engines?
The diesel actually runs cooler and quieter.
Makes the bike shift well. You don't have to change the oil as often, and very little wear.
The gentleman was just telling me I don't have to change it once but every 10,000, and down here I try to change it every 2 to 4, so if I could keep it in there an extra 1,000 or 2, it's going to save me money in the long run.
What are some other reasons that you might use Amsoil?
Well, it actually runs cooler. The cooler the motor runs, the more efficient it's going to run. You're going to get better fuel mileage, like I said, better wear, better tear. It lasts longer.
I don't think I saw anything, but I heard the difference.
It's just a really good product that does work.
I just know that it's going to keep my bike in good working order. That's what I know.
So if somebody else was thinking about changing their oil, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them go with Amsoil.
Amsoil. That's what I use.
Definitely Amsoil.
I prefer Amsoil.
It's a no-brainer. Go with Amsoil.
I tell them it's a no-brainer, do it. I mean, it beats the Mobil 1, it beats the Harley synthetic oil, and it's just great stuff.
I would recommend it. I've had no oil failures whatsoever.
You can run it forever. It doesn't break down. It's just a great product.
It's excellent. It does what they say it does, and it reduces your amount of oil changes, period.
I just think it's the best stuff out there. I mean, all the tests show that, and I'm trying to protect what I have because you make a big investment in some equipment. You want it to last.
So if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'm thinking about putting a different oil on my bike, what would you tell them?
I'd say go Amsoil, crazy bugger.
Well, there you have it, right from the mouths of those that are using Amsoil products in their bike. It really is the smart thing to do. If you want to ride hard and run cool, run Amsoil. For another Amsoil information series, I'm Rob Stenberg. We'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Len Groom, Technical Product Manager for Power Sports at Amsoil. I'm here in our mechanical test facility where we subject this 2012 Harley Street Bob to some of the most extreme heat testing imaginable. We tortured this motorcycle all in an effort to see if or when Amsoil's 20W50 motorcycle oil could fail. In order to test the limits of Amsoil's motorcycle oil, we needed the engine hot. So the first step is to eliminate the air moving across the cooling fins. These engines are air-cooled, so things heated up extremely quickly. Next, we disconnected all of the temperature safeguards that would normally protect this engine in the event somebody tried to overheat it. We attached a number of sensors all over this bike, everything from oil temperature to head temperature, exhaust gas temperature, right down to the RPM. We even set up a heat mapping camera so we could truly watch the heat unfold in real time. We programmed the dyno to simulate conditions that you would see maybe at a motorcycle rally, where there were periods of extended idling, extremely slow driving. Remember, we took all of the air cooling away from this engine, so it wasn't long before we started seeing some extreme temperatures. The temperatures began to rise extremely quickly. In this shot from the heat imaging camera, you can see that the temperatures in the upper cylinder and the lower head region were 430 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you have to remember, average temperature in a motorcycle in normal riding conditions is somewhere around 280 to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. We're well above that. The temperatures continue to climb, and in this photo, the temperatures in that same region are now hitting 450 degrees and still climbing. This analysis image shows that temperatures reached an unbelievable 550 degrees. The heat involved with this test was so extreme that we actually melted a couple of low oil pressure sensors out of this bike. We replaced the sensors and kept running the test at these extremely high temperatures. Once done, we drained the oil and took samples. The oil that came out of the engine was so hot, we actually had to use Pyrex glass beakers for the samples because our standard plastic sample bottles were melting. As you can see in the footage, the oil was literally smoking when it left the engine. Due to the extreme heat produced during this test, the metal of the engine expanded to a point that when we took the oil filter off, the stud that generally stays in the engine came with it. We ran this test several times. Each time, everything was monitored and everything was documented. All of the oil samples were taken to the lab for analysis. Here's what we found. In this viscosity graph, you can see we show the oil before and after the test. Now the interesting thing is that the numbers are identical. That means that the viscosity of the oil was not affected by the extreme heat that we subjected it to. Typically, when the viscosity starts to drop, wear protection starts to become compromised. That was not the case with the Amsoil 20W50 motorcycle oil. In this oxidation graph, once again we show the oil before and after the test. And as you can see, Amsoil shows a very small oxidation number. When an oil starts to oxidize, normally the tendency to build deposits starts to rise. So you want to see the oxidation number low, which indicates that the oil can still keep the engine clean. Based on these numbers, our oil still has the ability to keep the engine clean even after we subjected it to insanely high heat. An oil's total base number is its ability to deal with acid from combustion. This graph shows that the Amsoil product has plenty of reserve capacity to deal with acid from combustion, even though we put it through that extreme heat cycle. In this graph of the wear metals, we can see that the numbers are extremely low, or in some cases, 0. What that indicates is that even though the oil was at extremely high temperatures, it was still doing its job to protect the critical parts of the engine. So what were the results? We found that even after the extreme heat, the cycling up and down, the oil held up so well that you could put it back in the motorcycle for continued use.
Poor shift quality and noise from your transmission and primary compromise your ride and your confidence. More often than not, noise indicates wear, which, over time, leads to expensive repairs. How does a V-twin compensator, clutch, and transmission work, and what is the connection between the wear and noise? Let's find out. In a V-twin 6-speed transmission, power is transferred from the crankshaft to the compensator, through the chain to the clutch, then the transmission, and ultimately the wheel. The compensator and clutch reside inside the primary chain case. The transmission is on the opposite side of the bike. The compensator absorbs peaks and valleys in power from the engine, allowing smooth power to be transferred to the clutch. The clutch marries the engine power to the transmission. The transmission increases and reduces the power to the wheel by setting the correct gear combination associated with the shift point the rider selects. Wear on these components can cause noise and poor shift quality. Wear on compensator gears or springs results in noise that sounds like rattling bolts and can make starting your bike difficult. Wear on clutch plates results in slipping and/or lurching when the bike is put into gear. Transmission wear can occur on the shift dog and gears, resulting in poor shift quality and performance. Lubrication plays a critical role in protecting all these components, but particularly the compensator, chain, and clutch, which are lubricated by oil slinging inside the case. 100% synthetic with a boosted additive package, Amsoil V-twin lubricants are purpose-built to withstand shearing and heat and foam, delivering outstanding wear protection and quiet, smooth shifting. To check out the Amsoil Extreme V-twin test or buy Amsoil synthetic lubricants, visit amsoil.com/runcool.
Amsoil Synthetic V-Twin Transmission Fluid is custom engineered for quiet operation to eliminate transmission whine. It enables smooth shifts for crisp acceleration through each gear. Amsoil V-Twin transmission fluid delivers outstanding protection for long transmission life. You can use Amsoil V-Twin transmission fluid in any V-Twin transmission that does not share a sump with the engine, including those found on Harley-Davidson, Triumph and pre-2013 Indian motorcycles. Synthetic V-Twin transmission fluid promotes quiet operation with precise frictional properties that deliver smooth shifts and help quiet transmission noise, letting you focus on enjoying the ride. It forms a durable oil film on bearings and gears, helping to dampen loud thunks when shifting and reduce gear noise. Amsoil synthetic V-Twin transmission fluid helps you avoid missed shifts for crisp acceleration through each gear. This provides confidence that your transmission is going to respond as intended for an improved ride. Amsoil V-Twin transmission fluid resists viscosity loss due to shear and withstands extreme heat for excellent wear protection. Amsoil's robust molecules provide film strength to protect against damage from shock loading, and its extreme pressure additives deliver additional protection against wear. Start enjoying smoother shifts and crisper acceleration through each gear with Amsoil V-Twin transmission fluid.
What good is all that power if your oil can't handle the heat? Extreme heat can cause oil to lose viscosity and become thinner, reducing protection and leading to poor shifts or compensator noise. We formulate Amsoil synthetic V-Twin motorcycle oil to fight extreme heat and stress in the toughest conditions. In fact, industry standard testing shows that Amsoil resists viscosity breakdown 6 times better than Harley-Davidson Sin 3 for improved protection against compensator and transmission gear wear. Protect your bike and the spirit of the American biker. Upgrade to Amsoil protection at amsoil.com/V-Twin.
Hi, I'm Len Groom, Technical Product Manager for Power Sports at Amsoil, and today we're talking about heat, specifically in V-Twin motorcycles. When we look at V-Twins, heat is always a topic of conversation. Heat in these bikes, if not controlled, can cause damage. Pistons, cylinders, always something that people are thinking about when we're talking about heat. If the heat gets too high, you can cause damage to the cylinders, you can scuff the pistons, many things that can happen to this bike if we don't manage heat. Sometimes the riding situations that we can put the bike into can cause the heat to do different things. Let's say we're in parade traffic, or we're in a very slow speed situation where the RPMs are low and the speeds are low. There's not a lot of ability for the bike to cool itself in that situation, so heat can start to climb. Let's say we look at the bike itself. A large bagger can have fairings, it can have guards, it can have different covers on it that are going to keep the bike from cooling itself. The outside temperature can have a direct relation to the temperature of that motor. So the environment, the bike itself, the situation that we're putting it in can all have an effect on heat. There are several different ways that you can manage heat, but the first thing you need to do is establish that there is heat. And the best way, and often the cheapest way to do that, is to replace the bike's factory dipstick with one that incorporates a digital readout. You simply unscrew the factory stick, put this one in, and you can actually see the temperature of the oil as you ride the motorcycle. Another way to manage heat would be to add an oil cooler. Some bikes, such as this one, come from the factory with an oil cooler installed. In other situations, you can add one for somewhere around $200. A third option would be to actually add a cooling fan. The cooling fan is going to fit somewhere in the frame, and it's going to blow air across the cylinders of the motorcycle. This option getting slightly more aggressive, slightly more expensive. You're looking at $200+ on this one. A more aggressive option would be to remove the bike's factory oil pan and add an aftermarket pan. This allows us to increase the oil capacity, which is also going to help us increase the cooling capacity of this bike. The last option, and by far the most expensive option, would be to do something called diamond cut the cylinders. This process makes the cylinders more efficient and allows the bike to cool better. This fix can cost you more than $1,500. The most important option would be to use a high quality motor oil, because motor oil not only lubricates the moving parts and separates all of the different pieces, it provides a cooling aspect. The oil itself has to carry this massive amount of heat that we've been talking about away from the engine. And if it can't hold up to the heat, there's going to be some major problems. At Amsoil, we traditionally do a lot of testing. And in this situation, we ran something called an extreme dyno test, where we took a motorcycle oil and we put it in situations where you normally would not put your bike. 300-degree oil temperatures, 500-degree cylinder temperatures. We tested this product in situations where you could never put it. It held up excellent. For more information on this, take a look at the Extreme Dyno video.
Twins have notoriously been very hard on crankshafts because that big long stroke of those two cylinders just flexes the crankshaft around. So we were seeing bearing issues. Research development people at Amsoil could show us that it was likely an oil problem. And they were correct. That was the issue. Instead of having to redesign the engine, I just had to do a better quality oil.
So the results are in. 30 hours of Amsoil Dominator versus 30 hours of Motul 800, the oil that's called out in the Vitarazi Adam 80 manual. And the results are clear. I knew that the Dominator would probably show a little less carbon buildup over time, but I was blown away by the stark difference in what 30 hours would bring to the top of the piston and the top of the head. You'll see here in the pictures 30 hours on Amsoil Dominator, 30 hours on Motul 800, and the difference is clear. The Dominator burned clean and left almost no residue, whereas the Motul 800, there's a lot of buildup. And that was something I mentioned in my previous Adam 80 build videos, is I was frustrated in how much buildup I was getting, and I played with carburation and everything else, and nothing seemed to work. So I had gotten a tip from a friend that they used Dominator and didn't have those issues. So again, apples to apples, 30 hours, no mixture setting on the carburetor change, so no changes in the mixture. This is purely, the only thing that changed in the 30 hours was the oil I was using. 50-to-1 on the Dominator, because that's what's called out on the back of the bottle for off-road applications for dirt bikes and ATVs, things like that. And 66-to-1, as is called out in the Vitarazi owner's manual for the Motul 800. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Again, I will see you at my 300-hour overhaul of the Adam 80, and take care. Thanks. Motul, you're dirty.
We care about what we build, and we think the customers who buy a bike as unique as ours also want to do the best thing. We want to be engaged in making their, experience fantastic. And we know Amsoil products will deliver that kind of experience. With Amsoil, you can have an oil that could save you thousands of dollars in engine wear.
Getting out in front on the racetrack or on the trail requires every performance edge you can get. Amsoil Synthetic Dirt Bike Oil is formulated to maximize horsepower. Its synthetic base oils reduce energy loss to friction, meaning your engine works less to deliver more power to the ground, helping you get out front and stay out front. Amsoil Synthetic Dirt Bike Oil. Out front performance.
Hello, and welcome to another installment of the Amsoil Information Series. I'm Rob Stenberg. In 1972, Amsoil introduced the first synthetic motor oil to pass the service requirements of the American Petroleum Institute. Since then, virtually every lubricant manufacturer has introduced a synthetic motor oil of their own. and today synthetic motor oils are everywhere. Vehicle manufacturers are recommending or requiring the use of synthetic motor oils in their vehicles. But what exactly is synthetic motor oil? Well, for the answer to that question, we went to the experts.
The biggest difference between a conventional lubricant and synthetic lubricant is basically where they come from. Conventional oils are obtained through the distillation of crude oil. Synthetics, on the other hand, are chemically engineered and basically man-made.
In a mineral oil, you get a lot of undesirables. You've got hydrocarbons that aren't refined, you get gases, you get waxes, you get things that don't have any real true beneficial lubricating qualities to them. Whereas with the Amsoil synthetics, what you get is what you pay for, a lubricating product that's been designed in the lab to deliver performance at a prescribed type setting, so to speak.
Because of the molecular structure of the material that's within the conventional base material, it can be negatively affected and deteriorate or oxidize when exposed to temperature. Synthetics, on the other hand, are more uniform in nature. They are more thermally stable. They're what they call saturated, which gives them a far greater resistance to thermal breakdown. One of the big advantages of that, not only is their ability to function and protect in high temperature applications better than conventionals, but it results in a life expectancy significantly longer than what can be provided by conventional base stocks.
So today we know that not all synthetic motor oils are created equal. Just like conventional motor oils, some are better than others. So we went back to the experts and asked, what sets Amsoil apart?
Well, Amsoil is a little bit different than other synthetic producers because we're not linked to any base stock or base oil supplier or additive supplier. So what we do is we look around the entire world and we find the best technology available anywhere, and then we'll bring 2, 3, 4 different types of base stocks together along with the best additives that we can find, and that's how we make our synthetic fluids. Where other people might be locked into they have to use one certain base oil, we don't have those restrictions, and as a result, we produce the best we feel in the world.
The key and one of the real advantages that Amsoil has as a company is we can sit down, look at the application, and then select the type of synthetic base material or blend of synthetic base material that will provide the greatest level of performance and benefit for an application. We are not restricted by the use of only one type of synthetic material. We can go out and make sure that it's the best.
So now we know what sets Amsoil apart, but how does the consumer benefit?
The big advantages to the consumer in terms of synthetic lubricants are overall engine protection. People are keeping vehicles a lot longer. They want those engines to last longer. So the synthetics provide that engine protection over a long period of time. Number 2 is people are busy. They don't have time to change their fluids. Because synthetic fluids last a lot longer, you have the convenience of not having to change them nearly as often as you do with conventional products.
Overall cost effectiveness. The value proposition when you use a synthetic far outperforms anything you can achieve with a petroleum product, and it's probably the biggest benefit of a synthetic. Many studies in the marketplace have demonstrated fuel economy benefits when you use a synthetic, and that's because it's more slippery. I mean, if you compare synthetic to petroleum, the synthetic's more slippery, and even major OEMs like GM, Ford, and Eaton make claims regarding what a synthetic product can deliver as far as fuel economy benefits in an engine, which in today's marketplace is pretty important when you consider the rapidly escalating cost of fuels.
So there you have it. What oil should you be using? I'm Rob Stenberg. We'll see you next time.